How's it going, everyone? This is a quick video about these kind of puzzles where you have to draw something without lifting your pen off the paper. Or maybe the idea is, okay, here's a set of corridors you have to walk through here without tracing your steps. Okay, just different ways of describing the same riddle. Okay, so some of these, you just kind of, you look at it and you think for a bit and you're like, okay, well, through trial and error or through imagining different things, you figure out, okay, here's how I do it. Right? But for some of them, there's actually a shortcut that you can use. All right, and I'm going to show you that shortcut of how to figure it out. So here's a very classic one. Okay, this house with an X through it. Okay, how do you draw something like this without lifting your pen off the paper? For puzzles like this, first thing to look for, look at the vertices. Okay, these are the corners. How many lines are coming out of the corners? And for some of these puzzles, you'll notice there are specifically two vertices that have an odd number of lines. Okay, in this case, it's the two bottom vertices right here. Okay, every other vertice has an even number of lines touching it. The two that have an odd number of lines, those are your starting point and your ending point. They have to be. And here's why. If you can't lift your pen off the paper, and some particular vertex is not a starting point or an ending point, it's going to have an even number of lines. Because for every arrival at that point, there has to be a departure, which is the next step. Okay, for every departure from such a point, the step before that must have been some arrival. Okay, if something is not a starting point or an ending point, it has to have an even number of lines coming out of it because there has to be a matching number of departures and arrivals. If a vertice does not have an even number of lines, it means it does not have a matching number of departures or arrivals. Well, how is that possible if you're not lifting your pen off the paper? Well, the only way it's possible, how can you have an arrival without a departure if you end there? Okay, how can you have a departure without an arrival if you start there? Okay, and you're only starting in one place, you're only ending in one place. So there's only going to be two vertices or zero, right? Because you could have all your vertices with even numbers, right? Or there could be two vertices with odd number of lines, all right? And then you know, okay, that's where you're starting, that's where you're finishing, and that makes the puzzle much easier to solve because it narrows down the possibilities you have to consider. Okay, so here we know we have to start and finish at the bottom, and different ways we can do that. Okay, so we can draw the box first and then the X with the house, or maybe we draw the hourglass first and then the house, or maybe we do something completely strange and different, but always we're starting at one of those bottom corners, ending at the other bottom corner, because those are the vertices with an odd number of lines. Okay, here's another puzzle like that, right? So another relatively known one where you have three concentric circles and a line passing through them. Okay, let's look at the vertices. Are there two with an odd number of lines touching it? Yeah, one right here and one right here. Well, that makes our solution process much easier because we know one of them is the starting point, one of them is the ending point. And beyond that, there could be different solutions. Okay, so for example, we might do it this way. Okay, or well, without extending this too far, right? Or we might start with the central circle, right? And there's other solutions as well, but always we're starting at one of these odd line vertices and ending at the other odd line vertice, all right? And I'll finish this video off with also rather well-known complicated one of these based on an extension to that house with the X on it, right? So maybe you've seen this one before, maybe you haven't, but it really doesn't matter, okay? There's many, many puzzles where the idea is the same. You look for vertices that have an odd number of lines coming out. And there's two of them, as expected, right here and right here. Each one of them has 7 lines touching it. That's an odd number. So one of these is our starting point. One of these is our ending point. You might not be surprised because that's also our starting point and ending point of the more basic version where we just have the house. So knowing that, it becomes much quicker to solve this. We know where to start and where to finish. And beyond that, pretty often you can just wing it. And that's that. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you next time.